Initially, what we want to do is I want to figure out for every person who goes to my sign up page, how many of them actually sign up. So one of the ways that I can show you, so there's essentially two URLs here that will determine this. So if I say where URL in, and then I say sign up, and I say comma backslash API v1 users. Okay, so you see here are, okay, and you see how there's some of these are API v1 users, and some of them are sign up. So essentially what these are doing here, what we're going to be doing here is we're going to create a funnel. Say I go to zachwilson.tech, great, and then I go to sign up. All right, so here's the sign up page, and if I actually sign up, what will happen when I hit this submit button is behind the scenes, you'll see in my code here, there is this where is it API v1 user. Yeah, so you see right here this create user route. It used to be called users in the old data, though I made a change, and like that's why it's users, because like this is data from 6 months ago, and then I changed it to user because user is actually correct when you're designing endpoints. Like all your entities should be based on like the actual user object, or should be singular objects, right? So anyways, the idea here is you'll see some of these are actually going to be like kind of connected, where people are going to go to that page. So you see here, this user actually did it, right? This person was, they visited the sign up page and then they created an account. That's literally what happened for this user. So what we're going to do is we're trying to figure out what percent of users who got to the sign up page actually signed up. That is our plan here today. And this is going to be more tricky than you would think. And we're going to do it with no window functions. We're going to do this with a self join. So if you guys want to follow along, the queries are already in PyCharm in this applying analytical patterns. You'll see we'll have this funnel analysis query that we're going to do. So one of the things I know about this is like my logger and this data set is actually a little bit buggy in terms of like duplicates. So what we want to do first is we want to get rid of those duplicates. So let's say deduped events as, and then in this case, I'm going to just take this and pop them in here, and then remove this. And then we also have null user IDs. So we're going to say where user ID is not null. And then what we want is we got user ID. ID, we want URL, and then there's event time. And then we can also get date of event time, and this is as event date. I'll explain why. why we need this in a second, because we essentially want it to be like we care about the timestamp, but we also care about the date. So then the last thing we want to do here is we want to say group by, right? Group by user ID, URL, event time, and date event time. So this is going to give us our first set of data, right? So we can say like select star from deduped events. So let's just look at this real quick. Oh, I forgot the by. So if we do this, bada bing, bada boom, we have all of our data. It's now deduped because of that group by. Great. So now what we want is we can also filter, because we only care about two events in this case. We care about sign up and like visiting the sign up page and actually signing up. So we're going to say URL in this case, we're going to say backslash sign up and backslash API v1 users. So those are our two events that we care about, and we can filter everything else out for now, so that like it also will make the query a lot faster, because it kind of shrinks the data set down. So now what we want to do is we want to say, okay, did this user ever make a sign who visited a sign up page? Did they ever sign up after they visited the sign up page? Because we don't want it to be before, because technically you could like log out, like you could sign up and then log out and then go visit the sign up page again, just like what I did. I did that literally in this lab today, and we don't want, and just because I did sign up earlier, we don't want that new sign up to like have that attribution. So in this case, what we want to do is we essentially want to join the table on itself, so that we can have the sign up event and the visiting the sign up page and the actual sign up event happen on the same row, on the same record, right? So in this case, we're going to say deduped events D1, and then we're going to say join deduped events D2. And then in this case, we have on, right? And then in this case, we're going to say, obviously the first one is d1.userid equals d2.userid. That's like the obvious one. And we also want to put in and d1.eventDate equals d2.eventDate. That's going to be probably another way that you would want to look at this. This is an interesting one where it's like, okay, do we measure conversion over a specific time? Like we only count the visit if it happens within the same day. I think that makes this analytics a little bit easier, because otherwise, like if you just join on user ID and then you have this last condition, right? There's one more condition here, which is and d2.event time is greater than d1.event time. So what this will do, like let's not do select star, but let's do we'll say d1.userid, then we'll say d1.url, d1 or d2.url, d1.event time, d2.event time. So let's run this query. This query is going to be a little bit slower, but not too time. So let's run this query. This query is going to be a little bit slower, but not too bad. So oh, interesting. Okay, so we have one more here though, right? We need the join to also include like see the URLs are matching here, and we don't want them to match, like, and So that means this person signed up like twice or something. They must have like double clicked the button or they updated their account or something like that. So what we want to do is want to add one more condition in here. What do I say d1.url does not equal d2.url because that's a mess. And so now this will give us probably better. Okay, but the problem here is, there's actually one more here because we have the we only want the D1. We want this to D1. We only want to care as the sign up page visits, and you see like we have both now. So I think that would be in the where clause though. So we can say where d1.url equals \signup and d2.url equals \API v1 users. And we can actually get rid of this does not equal condition because like this essentially will make it so like the where clause is going to do that. In big data, we might want to keep that because it will filter out more of the data. But in this case, we probably don't need it. Okay, there we go. So now we have a visit that turns into a sign up. That is essentially what's happening here. And you'll see some of these events are pretty close, right? This visit, like these are not that close, but they're like, like this is what 16 minutes apart. Like, so obviously there's probably like you would want to have like an attribution window of that sign up visit, like because you could like imagine you could visit the sign up page, leave, and then come back later, like that you could come back at like a day later, and we would still get the attribution here, right? But that's fine. So we have all of these sign up events that are here. But you'll know that like some of these events actually do not have like there actually isn't like a created event because they can visit the sign up page and abandon. So that's where this one, this where clause is actually buggy, right? Because this right now is filtering down to only the people who have converted. So we don't want just the people who converted, but like, and that was the whole point here, was to show you, okay, these are the people who converted and this is what's going on. So what we want to do is we essentially want to create another, we're going to call this like self-joined as, and then this will be this query here. And this will give us the kind of self-join query. But we're going to remove the second where condition because we don't care about that. We will do that in the next query here that will show us like how this is going to work. So if we say select star from self-join, you'll see in this case now there's going to be all these other things that can happen, right? Because that should be fine. So you'll see sometimes there'll be a user who has like just a sign up, or they will have like another record here on the other side that will potentially be this is interesting. Why are these all like the same? Because okay, so this person visited sign up like 18 hours apart. That's essentially what's going on. This person like refreshed sign up a lot before they actually like created, but that's fine because like we would expect that to be the case. But what we want to do here is we want to aggregate along users essentially. So we can say so we have user ID, and then it doesn't matter how many like joined events here we have because obviously there's going to be a lot. So in this case, we have user ID, and then obviously the URL is just going to be sign up, so we don't need to have that. But we can have we need to change this one. We need to change this one as destination URL because otherwise we have URL and URL. So we need to change the second one. So what we want to do is we want to say count. We can say case when destination URL equals API v1 users, then one end. And this is going to be as converted. And oh, wait a minute, because this is probably going to double count. I want to make sure, like, because we only want to count each user once, like whether or not they converted. Okay, so I think, oh yeah, see, this is going to double count. So what we need to do here is we need to slap a distinct on there, so that it's just like a Boolean, right? So we can see that like it's actually there. Or you can actually, no, that's not the way to do it. Distinct, that's like super ugly. We want to actually do like converted. Okay, so we're going to double count. I want to make sure, like, because we only want to count each user once, like whether or not they converted. This is probably this one. We need to change this as destination URL. Because otherwise we have URL and URL, so we need to change the second one. So what we want to do is we want to say count. We can say case when destination URL equals API v1 users, then one end, and this is going to be as converted. And oh, wait a minute, because this is probably going to double count. I want to make sure, like, because we only want to count each user once, like whether or not they converted. Okay, so I think, oh yeah. See, this is going to double count. So what we need to do here is we need to slap a distinct on there. So that it's just like a Boolean, right? So we can see that like it's actually there. Or you can actually, no, that's not the way to do it. That's like super ugly. We want to actually do max, right? Max is gonna that'll give it what we want. You know, and then we want to put else 0 here, so we can have the. So now this means that user converted and these other users didn't convert. But these other users did visit the sign up page. Key thing to remember here. So we now have our users who converted and the ones. So, but we can also have another column here, right? Which is going to be so we have the converted column. So this is essentially our next, like this is like user level as. So this is going to give us our users who have converted. So now so now this means that user converted and these other users didn't convert. But these other users did visit the sign up page. Key thing to remember here. So we now have our users who converted and the ones. So, but we can also have another column here, right? Which is going to be so we have the converted column. So this is essentially our next, like this is like user level as. So this is going to give us our users who have converted. So now we have. User level, and then we want to do one more aggregation here, though, right? So if we say select, and then we can say count one, comma sum converted, right? From user level, this is going to give us one big old number here, right? And so you'll see in this case we have our number here of. We have 145 counts of users. And then the sum here is 49. So we can also do a division here, right? And we can say like cast as real. So this is going to be our like overall conversion rate. But keeping in mind that this conversion rate is different than the one in here, because in here the difference is I okay, because in this one the difference is like we do it where it's at the URL level instead of at the user level. So essentially what this means is 33.7% of all the users who ever visited the sign up page will convert. That's essentially what this means, right? Because we have all the users here, and then that that was the conversion rate. So this is going to be as percent converted. And so this is going to be one way to do it. I want to compare this though, because I think that this is going to be very interesting to y'all. So if we throw in URL here, and then instead we group on both username and URL, but in this case we also need to put a count. So count one this is as number of hits. So because the conversion rate is that good, where it's this high, right? That doesn't necessarily mean that that's the level that you would expect from each individual like web traffic, right? Because some users might have visited like the sign up page 10 times and then they finally converted on the last go, right? And so that's different. That's like the per hit as opposed to the per user conversion. And so in this case, you'll see where what we can do here is we actually want to stomp out this line 21 so that we can just have like wherever they're coming from. So in this case, we're going to have URL and then we're going to have some number of hits, and then we want to group by URL. And so now it should give us a fairly different picture. Like, how is that? Oh yeah, because we need to like stomp out that too. We got to have like all the hits, because now this should give us a very different picture. Okay, there we go. So, oh yeah, that makes sense. The API users convert to themselves very well. Okay, so what I want to show here though is this is not quite right, because we want to not divide by count one. We want to divide by number of hits, because count one actually doesn't give us very much. So this is going to be let's put sum converted outside here as num converted, and then this can be as num hits. And so we want to put a having clause in here because there's going to be a lot of garbage. You see all this like marijuana.php, or just like people like hit my website and they try to go to random paths all the time. It's like super obnoxious. So what we want to do here is we want to put like a having here. We can say having some number of hits greater than maybe like, let's put like 500. So that like, we don't have like all these like stupid hits in here. And then we can run this query. Okay, there we go. So no, that didn't run. There we go. See, it's a lot slower now because I didn't filter out anything. There we go. So now we have we have about 110 records, and you'll see that like some pages are going to convert better than other pages. like, which makes a lot of sense that you would expect that. So in this case, we can sort, and okay. Okay, so now this is going to give us a lot clearer picture of who converted where, right? And these numbers seem like a lot clearer and a lot better. So you'll notice that some of these pages, like we have like essentially like a a 0.3% like conversion rate here. I think there's going to be there is a divisor problem here though, because this converted is like a one-time event, whereas the other one is not, right? The other one is going to be the all the times that they visited the website. So like even if I signed up, but then if I visited the sign up page again, I'm not going to sign up again, but that's still going to count in the denominator. So that's why these numbers now look a lot worse. We saw how like in the previous example, we had like at the user level and the conversion rate looked like 30%, and now it's like 0.3%. But that's because of like all of the, like there's a lot of bots and a lot of other things that are in here that are going to be really dragging this number down quite a bit. And so that's going to be like probably the big thing that I would say that's definitely happening here. But this is the idea. But you can see how like, oh yeah, if they actually signed up, and like then that's going to be where you get this conversion here. I'm curious, like if we change this to a sum, what does that number look like? Okay, so okay, this is probably actually more accurate. Yeah, I think this is going to be more accurate on like the like what I would say is the numbers, because obviously if they signed up, they signed up. But like in this case, why these numbers are different, right? That's an interesting thing, and the reason for that is based on the self join logic, right? And because like the sign up isn't preceded or it isn't followed by a sign up, or what that means is that like half of these is like a sign up is followed by an edit, and so. And that's essentially what's happening here. But this conversion rate seems like more accurate for what you would see in like normal web traffic, right? So it's like 2.7% or so. That's kind of the perspective that I would expect when I'm creating my funnels and doing my traffic. Is it's like, okay, they went to the sign up page and now they're over here, and it's now 2.7%, which I think is totally reasonable. So, and you'll see that like some of these creator pages also have like a decent percent because like they can edit as well. And so this is kind of the idea that like, but you'll see some of these pages down here are terrible. Like, so it's like the about page. So if someone lands on the about page, the odds that they sign up is very low. It's like 0.2%. And that, yeah, these numbers, like I trust these. These seem like pretty accurate now. So anyways, that's the idea behind funnel analysis, right? The idea here is you have two events, right? And you have like, you get this is like fact data in a lot of cases, right? Where you have two events that like you want to see like this one came after this one. And how often does that happen versus other things happening? And that's what that's essentially what's going on here when we're going through this lab together. That like now I know that like I probably need to increase this number because this 2.7% is not good enough. Like I think that more people should be giving me their email and converting. I probably need to optimize things. But obviously, like this data only goes through like this is only up through like March. Like I think this is only like the first month that I launched my startup. I don't have data after that. So that can also be a little gotcha for this. So now what I want to talk about is I have another one here around grouping sets. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to just grab this real quick. I'm going to grab this just to start with, and then we can go and work from it from there. Okay, so if I say select star from events augmented, like you can pull this query in from the repo. This query now has just a couple things. So what I'm trying to do now is just look at my website events and try to see, okay, what event is, or what type of device is the most common device that hits my website. And I think that we'll be able to do a lot of really cool stuff with this as well. So we have all all this device information here. So you could imagine that what we could do if we were doing this like kind of in a naive approach, we could just say OS type, device type, browser type, and then we want to say count one. And then we can say group by OS type, device type, browser type, right? And let me just like format that real quick. So this query is obviously going to run. And then we can see, oh, we have all of our data here. And you'll see that like the most common one for me is Android on generic smartphone on Chrome mobile. So that's the most common one. But like, what about all of like, I want to know about just Android traffic, not like Android generic smart home Chrome mobile traffic. I just care about Android. What if I care about Android, but I also care about other cuts here? So what we want to do is we're going to introduce a new concept here called grouping sets. So if we go in here, we can say group by grouping sets. And the first grouping set, like, so you'll see if I don't put everything in the grouping set, this query will fail because you have to put all of them in there at least once. Otherwise, it's not going to work. So you can have that first, like, and this is essentially the finest grain, which is the old data. But then we can also put in, what if we put in like browser type, and we can put in OS type, and we can put in device type. So these are three other grains that I want to put in. And you'll see now, if we do this, okay, there we go. So now you'll see we have, like if we sort on count here, okay, you see these nulls? See how there's nulls here now? So those nulls are because of grouping sets. So that's because those are ignored. So what that means is this is the browser type column. That's what that means. And so a lot of times what people do is they're going to put coalesce on these columns so that the data doesn't look so weird. And then this is going to be our, and they coalesce it with overall in parentheses to show like, hey, this is our overall column. And it's similar to like, like a grand total or like a subtotal. If y'all are like familiar with like Excel, that's like where I would say this kind of has a similar vibe to it, right? And so this is going to give us you'll see now if we run this query, that's just going to get rid of those nulls. And then we'll have, you can scroll up here and you'll see we have a better idea here where it looks like Chrome mobile is going to be our biggest one. But I don't know if that's true. We say order by count one descending. I don't think that that's right. Okay. There we go. Okay, so it looks like actually other is the most common. And I think that's actually from bots, like Google bot and stuff like that. So, and then after that, we have like iPhone, and then we have iOS at the highest level. Then we have iPhone, then Chrome, then Android, right? Those all make sense, right? Then generic smartphone. I love that. I love that that's the name of it. And then there's that Chrome mobile hit. And obviously it looks like these ones, like Android, generic smartphone, and Chrome mobile, these are like almost the same. Right? You see how these dimensional cuts are like almost the same. So there's like a small number of values in these two spots that are different. But what you can see is like if you use grouping sets, you get a lot of really powerful information here. So one of the things I want to talk about though real quick is there's actually another thing here called grouping. I want to say this has it's like this. I want to say you use that. I will let's see real quick if that gives it. Okay, cool. So what happens here is if the so this is how we determine if the grouping set includes or ignores each of the things here, right? So let me show you more like if we add more of these groupings in here. So if we say grouping of we'll say a device type and grouping of browser type, these are different, right? And but like I think it'll make more sense when you see like all of them together. So okay, so we have this overall other, and you'll see in this case the grouping is not device type, but what this means is device type is set on, and then the other two are off. That's what this means, right? Because you see how it's like overall here. So in this case, that means that grouping, the device type grouping is there, but the other ones are not. So, and you'll see in some of these cases, like for this Android generic smartphone, in this case, that means it's all three. So what we want to do is we want to essentially build a new column for this table that uses these groupings. So we can say case when OS type equals 0, then OS type. And then that's going to give us our first, that'll give us like that first aggregation, right? To understand like how all of these work together, right? So there's essentially like, the way you want to do this is you want to do this in a smart way where it is kind of, it looks at like what your choices are here. So in this case, we know that if they are all 0, then like let's do that one first. So we're going to say case when grouping type equals 0 and grouping device type equals 0 and grouping browser type equals 0. Then this is our so in this case we have OS type, device type, browser type. So like at Facebook, what we did was we kind of like split it out where like in between each column name we put a double underscore to signify that that's the aggregation level. So then like then the rest of them are just singular, right? So then we can say when grouping browser type equals 0, then browser type. And then when grouping device type equals 0, then device type. And when grouping OS type equals 0, then OS type. And then this is, and we can call this as aggregation level. So now if we run this, you'll see we have this nice aggregation level column. So what I want to do is I'm just going to well, get rid of these top level groupings here. And now we have our aggregation level. And this we're going to say is as a number of hits. So we have this table. And what I want to do is I'm going to call this, we're going to create this as a table. We're going to call this create table. This is going to be a device hits dashboard as. So we're just going to create this table real quick, and then we're going to run this. I'm going to create this hits. So So we have this table, and what I want to do is I'm going to call this, we're going to create this as a table. We're going to call this create table. This is going to be a device hits dashboard as. So we're just going to create this table real quick, and then we're going to run this. Okay, so now we have our table. So if I say, in this case, I say select star from device hits dashboard, where our table. So if I say this table real quick, hits dashboard as. So we're just going to create this table real quick, and then we're going to run this. Okay, so now we have our table. So if I say, in this case, I say select star from device hits dashboard, where aggregation level equals device type, like this. You'll see, okay, now we have, we can see, okay, here's our aggregation level device type, and then we can get all the hits. And then you can also say like OS type. And then you see how this is so powerful, because now you can like just, you don't have to query the event data, and it's just pre-aggregated. And like you can now have like your dashboards can just be powered based off of where conditions and not based off group by conditions. So and then obviously you have the big behemoth one, right? This one, OS type, device type, like this guy. And so you got to teach your analysts about the double underscore kind of mechanism for that aggregation level. But then you can see like, okay, this is like the cut that is the most common is going to be these three together if we actually include all the dimensions. So that's essentially how this works. I kind of want to go over how this is different from like how grouping sets versus roll up and all this works. Before that though, I want to move this query into. I want to move this query as this query is better. So it's a lot better than this one. So that, and you could put other things in here, right? And in the old query, I had like some like sign up conversion rate stuff that was in there, but like those numbers weren't even real. Really, we have like this number of hits is going to be the big thing that we're going to want to look at. So if we change this, right? If I just change this real quick and I say group by cube, and then I put OS type, device type, and browser type in here, and then I got to get rid of this create table real quick and then comment this out. So if we just change this to cube real quick, you'll see that sometimes we're going to have an aggregation level that's not there, because this is like the overall aggregation level. And then you'll see all these other ones that are gonna show up here that are based on different versions, right? But the thing is like with cube, you have other combinations that you need to worry about. You have the double combinations like OS type and browser and device type, right? And you have those like the double combinations that you got to worry about. So some of these aggregation levels are going to be wrong, right? You see like this one here, like this one is not device type because it has Linux and other. This one's actually device type and OS type together. That's how that one works. So I think there's another, like, I want to say that there's also one called grouping ID. Is that? Oh no, I think grouping, that's in Presto. I think that's like a slightly different way to do it. But so you'll see with Cube, one of the big things you get is you get that overall, right? You get this like overall one that's like essentially like grouping on nothing, and you get that like the million hits or whatever that's in this data set, and you just have all the records. And so you can see how like Cube is pretty awesome. So I just want to compare that with Rollup so that y'all can kind of see very vividly like what's going on here. So in this case with Rollup, Rollup still does. Okay, interesting. Rollup does still give you the overall aggregation, but then it also gives you then you'll see that for the rest of the time though, that OS type is never overall. It's always present. But then you'll see that device type can be gone and browser type can be gone, but sometimes they're in there. So this is what I talk about the hierarchy, right? So OS type, so Rollup gives you like the grand total, which is nice. But then OS type after that will always be in and it won't go overall. And then device type can be going overall and browser type can as well. But then when you'll see like if device or if browser type is overall, I mean, no, if device type is overall, browser type has to be overall. You'll notice that that's going to always be the case because that it's a hierarchy, right? So it's kind of like that whole country, state, city kind of hierarchy. And so in this case, this would be like the state, and that would that's essentially what's going on with that data. So that is essentially how you do fancy like grouping operations in Postgres.
Congrats on finishing the day 2 lab in the course. I hope you enjoyed it. If you like this channel and like this bootcamp, make sure to like, comment, and subscribe and share this content with your friends. I'm so happy that you're taking this time to invest in your knowledge and getting better at data. See you at the next one.